The Way In, Episode 7, Two-Way Mirror. Chapter 1, The Other Side. Mara. I wake up standing. That is the first impossible thing. Not sitting upright in bed. Not startled awake by a sound or a dream or the familiar pressure that has come to mean he's near. Standing. The second impossible thing is that I know immediately I'm not in my apartment. Cold air presses through fabric that isn't mine. My shoulders feel broader, heavier. My center of balance is wrong. The ground under my shoes is rough asphalt, uneven in places, damp from rain that must have passed through earlier in the night. Somewhere nearby, an air conditioning unit rattles like it's trying to hold itself together through force of habit alone. A car engine ticks as it cools. Then I see the building. Carver's apartment complex. Second floor. End unit. The red ceramic planter still visible at the edge of the balcony rail. For one suspended second, I think I've been taken over again. That he entered while I slept and used me to drive here. That I've come awake in the middle of another intrusion and simply missed the beginning. But no steering wheel, no keys, no sensation of being inside my own body and pushed to the back. This is different in a way that makes my skin crawl. I'm not in control of the body I'm in, but I'm not in mine either. I am somewhere behind someone else's eyes. His. The understanding arrives cold and complete. This is Nathaniel. The path is working in reverse. He doesn't know I'm here. That's the first useful fact. The second is worse. He is here in person, not through me, not through another proxy, not from a distance, arranging pressure like a man setting charges in another room. He is physically here, across the parking lot from Carver's apartment, breathing the same air, studying the same windows, wearing his own skin. That means this is personal. The body I'm inside shifts slightly behind a parked SUV, careful to stay in shadow. The movement is quiet, practiced. Not the dramatic stillness of a man playing spy. Something older, more procedural. He's done this too often to romanticize it. My eyes, his eyes, move across the exterior of the building in sequence. Balcony, stairwell, main entrance, side lot, street exit, tree line. A security camera mounted too high to capture plates, but low enough to track movement along the sidewalk. Porch lights in 3 units. One dark stairwell bulb near the rear exit. A dented sedan parked under the far lamp. A city utility truck 2 buildings down. He isn't watching Carver. He's mapping the environment around him. Entry points, escape routes, witness angles, blind spots. I feel the thought before it becomes language. He's planning to do this himself. That makes no sense at first. Nathaniel, or whatever he truly is, has been too careful to leave a direct trail. Everything I know about him suggests distance, deniability, the use of fractured people as instruments. He makes others act. He does not stand in the scene himself unless there is something in it he values more than safety. So either he's becoming reckless, or this matters to him more than usual. My gaze returns to Carver's apartment. The curtains are partly open. A lamp glows warm in the living room. No visible movement right now, but the light itself tells Nathaniel what he needs to know. Carver is awake. Home. Active inside his own routine. Vulnerable in all the ways a man becomes vulnerable when he believes the walls of his home still separate him from the shape of his enemies. Nathaniel crouches lower. The body's breath remains slow. Controlled. Then he murmurs something under his breath, and I hear his natural voice for the first time, without the filter of my own throat. Still keeping late hours, Tom. Partner. History. Not theory. Whatever sits between them is old enough to soften his voice without making it kind. He stays there another several minutes, maybe longer. Time inside this reversed connection doesn't move the way ordinary time moves. My thoughts feel sharpened and delayed at once, like I'm watching the world through a pane of glass that occasionally decides to become water. He studies the route from lot to stairwell again. Counts something silently, not steps. Seconds. Then turns and walks back toward a narrow cut-through behind the complex where the streetlight doesn't reach. As he moves, I understand his intention more clearly. He is not here to attack tonight. He is here to prove to himself that he can, that the path is viable, that the exits are clean, that Carver is still predictable in the ways that matter. And because I am somehow here inside him, I understand something else. He hasn't built this plan around using me. Not this part. He wants Carver himself. That should be useful. It should feel like a breakthrough. Instead, it terrifies me, because it means the thing driving him toward Carver isn't merely practical, it's intimate. The connection snaps without warning. No drift. No gentle withdrawal. 1 second I'm behind his eyes in the dark outside Carver's building, and the next I'm back in my own bed, bolting upright so hard the blanket twists around my legs. My chest is tight. My hands are shaking. The room is mine again, but it doesn't feel owned. Not entirely. Tiger startles off the end of the bed and lands on the floor with an offended thump. Sorry, I whisper. Though the word comes out wrong, breathless and thin. I grab my phone before fear can reorganize itself into caution. Carver answers on the 4th ring, voice rough with sleep or bourbon, or both. What? He was there. The line goes silent. Then, where? Outside your apartment. Parking lot. Rear side first, then the lot near the front. He's gone now, I think, but he was there. A pause. Mara. Him saying my name like I'm a crazy person has me concerned. I know how this sounds. No, he says, and now he sounds fully awake. You don't. That should concern me more than it does. You need to check the lot, I tell him, and the rear cut-through behind the complex. He was mapping your building, not just watching you. Mapping you. He doesn't waste time asking how I know. Stay where you are, he says. I'm not there. Another silence. Then, I know. The line goes dead. I sit there in the dark, phone still in hand, and understand that whatever happened tonight has changed the geometry between us all. Nathaniel has created his own vulnerability, and I sit in the dark, wondering, does he know?
Chapter 2. Cheap Rooms and Clear Intent. Nathaniel. The room is exactly where I left it. That's one of the things I appreciate about motels. They are incapable of surprise. Everything in them is functional in the ugliest possible sense. The lamp is either on or off. The ice bucket is always where the last forgotten man left it. The bedspread always looks faintly accusatory. Nothing in a room like this pretends to know you. I prefer that. By the time I return from Carver's apartment complex, The clock by the bed reads 2:14 a.m. The drive back took 26 minutes because the interstate was open and the state trooper at mile marker 82 was asleep in his cruiser, or bored enough to make no distinction between the two. I parked beneath the dead floodlight behind the side stairwell because that angle gives me line of sight to the lot and only one visible approach. Habit matters most when the rest of your life has been pared down to improvisation. I lock the door, check the curtains, and sit at the table by the window. The notebook is still open to the page I left unfinished. Carver's building, his roots, the time between lights changing in the lot, the camera blind spot near the dumpsters, rear cut-through usable if no foot traffic, street exit preferable only if no active patrol, stairwell bulb still out, replace if management notices. I add one more line, home pattern intact. There is a satisfaction in that phrase that I would not trust in a less disciplined man. Tonight was not an attack, it was rehearsal. There is a difference. A direct approach to Carver was never going to be the cleanest option, but clean is not always the same thing as right. There are problems that should be solved personally simply because distance dulls the instruction they are meant to carry. Carver has lived too long inside the false comfort of partial understanding. He deserves clarity. At the right moment. Not now. I unscrew the cap from the bottle of water I bought earlier and take one slow drink. The room hums around me. Air conditioner, distant traffic, the soft metallic pop of pipes settling in the wall behind the bathroom. They creak with imminent failure. I lay the pen across the notebook and let myself think of Mara. The first entry into her had the texture of experimentation. The second had the hurdle of challenge. By the third, I expected the familiar arc all hosts eventually follow: awareness, fear, fatigue, passivity. She did not become passive, she adapted. That isn't immunity. I know better than to flatter her with the wrong word, but it is a complication, and complications must be studied before they become liabilities. I don't have a cleaner word for it, though I dislike the imprecision. During the last entry, there was a persistence in her not unlike pressure from behind a door I had already opened. No overt resistance, nothing dramatic, just witness that lingered longer than it should, longer than anyone else ever has. That may become a problem, or an opportunity, depending on the shape it takes. The teacher has said nothing tonight. In fact, he has been silent for longer than I feel comfortable with. I stop the feeling of abandonment from creeping in, but it sends a cold chill through me that I haven't experienced since when I was a child. I convince myself that he speaks when correction is needed, not when process is functioning. I learned that years ago. Men who require constant reassurance do not survive inside uncertainty. They rot in it. I do not rot. I revise. The real problem is timing. Mara and Carver are no longer separate variables. Whether they have spoken yet or not, whether they fully understand the overlap or only sense it, the line between them has shortened. Once people begin sharing knowledge, they stop being useful in isolation, which means that if I intend to remove Carver and preserve the larger perimeter around me, I will need to solve for both of them, directly if necessary, indirectly if preferable. My mind moves through the available options. Carver remains difficult to isolate cleanly. His habits are predictable, but his training keeps him from becoming easy prey. Mara is easier to reach but harder now to govern, and using her too visibly against him risks closing the very door I still need. That leaves the third option. A new subject. Someone peripheral enough to avoid immediate scrutiny, proximal enough to both of them to matter, and structurally unstable enough to be opened without excessive noise. Selection has always been the most pleasurable stage, not because of the suffering that follows, because selection is where the world reveals what it has already built for you. I close the notebook and lean back in the chair. Mara thinks she is getting closer. Knowing Carver, he probably thinks the same. They are both wrong in the same useful way. Neither of them sees that the board has already widened, and when the next piece moves, they will understand, too late perhaps, but clearly, that a man does not have to choose between revenge and efficiency when he knows enough about how to slide through fissures of an already broken foundation. He can have both.
Chapter 3. Dead Ends in the Dark. Mara. Carver calls back 17 minutes later. I know the exact time because I've been staring at the phone since the line went dead, counting seconds between impulses to call him again and force an answer out of silence. Tiger has returned to the bed but keeps his distance, watching me with the same expression he uses when I vacuum too close to his preferred corner of the couch. When the screen lights up, I answer before the first full vibration finishes. Nothing, Carver says. No greeting, no wasted motion. Backlot's empty. Rear cut through too. I drove the perimeter twice. No vehicles I can tie to anyone sitting long enough to watch. He was there, I insisted. I know, he says. That matters more than I expected. Not belief, not exactly, but acceptance of the possibility that whatever I'm describing is not a story I've built to protect myself from something simpler. I know, he says again, quieter this time. Because the side stairwell gate was open. I sit up straighter. And I lock it every night. Good. A fact. Small, grounded, irrefutable. Not proof in any official sense, but the kind of detail two people can build trust on because it belongs to no one's imagination. What was he doing? Carver asks. That question should be easy to answer. It isn't. Not because I don't know what I saw, because saying it out loud makes it more real. Planning, I say, not acting. He was mapping your building, your exits, the lot, sight lines, patrol exposure. He wasn't improvising. Silence on the line. Then, how do you know all that? There it was. The question with teeth. I close my eyes. Because there is no version of the truth that sounds reasonable. I need to tell you in person. A longer silence. Then, tomorrow, 9, same diner. He hangs up before I can agree. That's fine. I wasn't asking. I don't sleep after that. There's no point pretending otherwise. I sit at the kitchen table with the lamp on low and write until the words start to look detached from their meanings. Outside Carver's apartment, physically present, rear cut-through, map behavior, building ingress/egress, window lines, not through me, through him. I stop there, pen hovering over the page. Through him. Even written down, it looks insane. I try to reconstruct the event with the same discipline I've used on everything else. What woke me? Was there pressure beforehand? Any somatic marker inside my own body that signaled the shift? Had I dreamed first? Was I half asleep and suggestible? Had the connection happened before in smaller ways I dismissed as panic residue? No answer feels adequate. I remember cold air, wrong shoulders, seeing through unfamiliar height, hearing his voice naturally, feeling his intent orient toward exits before windows, windows before target, target before retreat. None of that belongs to dream logic. It belongs to method. Which means this happened. And if it happened once, it can happen again. That possibility should make me hopeful. It doesn't. It makes me understand how little control I have over the one real advantage I might possess. By 6, I'm showered, dressed, and halfway through a cup of coffee that tastes like anxiety and cheap grounds. I almost call my father. Almost. But what do I say? I'm tracking a man who can enter minds and control bodies? No. I need one grounded conversation at a time. Carver first. He opens the diner door for himself exactly at 9 and clocks me before the bell above the frame settles from the movement. Same jacket as yesterday. Same tired eyes. Different posture. Tighter. Less skeptical than guarded. We sit in the same booth without discussing it. He doesn't order coffee this time, neither do I. "Tell me," he says. So I do. Not the version designed for institutions. The cleaner one. The one built for a man who already has enough evidence to know the world is wrong, but not enough to prove how. "I woke up outside your apartment," I say. Not in my body, not in control. I was observing from inside him. Carver holds my gaze. No expression. "That's not metaphor?" "No." "You're sure?" "Yes." He leans back slightly, like distance will improve the geometry of what I've said. Then he asks the only useful question. "What did you see?" I tell him everything. The lot, the routes, the camera, the stairwell gate, the line about late hours, the fact that Nathaniel appeared to be planning something direct, not mediated. When I say Nathaniel's name, Carver doesn't correct me for using it. He doesn't ask if I'm sure. He just watches me in a way that makes it clear he's still measuring whether he can afford to believe me. Maybe that's trust in its earliest form, not acceptance. Calculation. When I finish, he pulls a napkin from the holder, turns it over, and starts sketching a crude rectangle with stairwells, lot lines, and the rear cut through. "Show me where," he says. So I do. By the time we're done, the napkin looks like the worst kind of evidence. Private, exact, and unusable. The kind that changes people without ever entering a file. He stares at it for a moment longer than necessary and says, "Come back to the apartment." That's new. The invitation is no longer a test. It's a shift. And that means this day is already more dangerous than the last one was. Chapter 4. Old Cases, New Wounds. Mara. Carver's apartment looks more lived in during daylight, which is somehow worse. Night had made it atmospheric. A hunter's den. An archive grown in secret. Daylight turns it into something sadder and more impressive at the same time. The private headquarters of a man who never got permission to stop asking the question that wrecked the life he used to have. Files cover the walls. Not randomly, by type, by behavioral overlap, by language used in interviews. There are photographs of crime scenes I deliberately don't look at too long. Clippings from local papers in 3 states. Handwritten notes keyed to dates and county jurisdictions. cross-references between cases that would have been invisible to anyone still thinking in terms of isolated incidents. This is not obsession in the cliché sense. This is method carried into exile. Carver clears space on the dining table and spreads out 3 open files, 2 maps, and a legal pad already full of names written in block capitals. Some are crossed out, some circled. A few have question marks beside them. He doesn't waste time with preamble. If what you described is real, he says, then we need to think about 2 separate problems. I sit across from him and nod. One, he says, tapping the page. He's physically present in the same operational environment, which means he's local right now. Maybe transient, maybe moving every few days, but local. 2, whatever he's doing to you isn't staying contained inside one direction anymore. That's one way to put it. His eyes lift briefly. It's the most useful way. Fair. He turns the legal pad toward me. At the top, he's written, likely lodging/access corridors/contact points. We start with what he needs if he's operating physically, he says. Cheap lodging near interstate access, low surveillance, easy exits, cash accepted, short stay, no identity continuity. Motel. Most likely. He circles a corridor on the map south of the city, near the interstate spine. I-95, I say. He nods. North gives him federal clutter. South gives him movement. We spend the next hour going through practical ideas. Motels within 30 minutes of his apartment. Gas stations with camera coverage along likely routes. Pharmacy chains and convenience stores open late enough to support burner purchase patterns. Roads with easy merge access and enough ambient traffic to bury a vehicle. It's the most grounded conversation I've had in days, and that alone is almost enough to make me trust it too much. Then we shift to old cases. Carver slides one file toward me. The East Texas murder. Aaron Pike. Wrongful conviction. Second body in Louisiana 3 weeks later. This is the one that broke him open publicly, Carver says. Open? He almost smiles, but doesn't. Terminated him, he says instead. Though in hindsight, maybe both. I read while he talks. Not a full confession, because no one ever writes those. But enough. Behavioral inconsistencies. Profiling confidence beyond evidence. Post-interrogation shift in certainty. Internal review. Removal. You thought he knew Pike was innocent. I still do. Then why not say it? Carver leans back in the chair, looking not at me, but at a point just over my shoulder, where one wall holds an index of blackout claims from cases stretching back 12 years. Because knowledge without proof becomes pathology in this business, he says. And Nathaniel had begun sounding like a man who thought instinct exempted him from process. That sounds right enough to hurt. And after he was terminated? I kept looking. He says it simply, but the room itself is proof of what kept looking cost him. He crosses to the wall and pulls down another file. This one from Georgia. Assault. Suspect claimed missing time. Another from Missouri. Domestic homicide with oddly controlled post-offense behavior. Another from Louisiana, different from the second child case, where the accused described feeling behind myself while the act occurred. Daniel's line really wasn't an outlier. There are others. I say it aloud without meaning to. Carver hears it and nods once. Yes, he says. There are. I look back down at the files. Do you think he's the only one doing this? Carver is quiet long enough that I know the answer matters. No, he says finally. I think Nathaniel is the only one I've been able to partially see. That's different. The sentence sinks like a stone. Partially see, not understand, not prove, see. That's all any of us have right now. Then something shifts, not in the room, in me. It begins so lightly I almost dismiss it as dehydration, the faintest drag behind my eyes, a brief softness at the edges of Carver's face as he turns back toward the table. My left hand feels colder than the right, then heavier. I go still. Carver notices. What? I want to answer quickly. Instead, there is a delay. Tiny, but real. And by the time I understand that it's happening again, it already is. Chapter 5. It's been a while, partner. Mara. This time there is no gentle onset. No chance to brace. No useful sequence of warning signs I can name in time. One moment, I'm sitting at Carver's table trying to parse the widening map of impossible cases and motel corridors, and the next, the room feels one fraction too far away. Distance slides between thought and motion. My body stays upright, but ownership loosens all at once, like a knot cut instead of untied. Carver says my name. I hear him clearly, but I do not answer. Not first. The left hand moves. There is a terrible familiarity in that. Not just the movement itself, but the knowledge of what it means before it finishes happening. Nathaniel. He came in faster this time. Harder. No patient occupation of the perimeter. No testing of wrists and fingers under the light. Straight to function. I push against it instinctively and find resistance where I used to find only smooth displacement. Not enough to stop him. Enough to feel the pressure of myself pushing back. That's new. He feels it too. I know because a thought brushes past me that is not my own. So. There you are. He doesn't say it aloud. He doesn't need to. My body remains seated, too still. Carver has already noticed that something is wrong, but not what. Not yet. His posture changes first. Forward. Alert. The trained shift from conversation into assessment. Mara. Nathaniel turns my head toward him slowly. Controlled. Measured. He's looking at the files on the table while looking at Carver. Two objectives at once. Assess progress. Gauge reaction. He scans quickly. Notes, maps, names. The motel corridor narrowed. The legal pad. The East Texas file open. Louisiana beside it. He has what he came for before I fully understand that he came specifically for this. He wanted to know what we know. Then he looks at Carver and speaks through me. It's been a while, partner, he says. The line lands like a physical strike. Carver doesn't move immediately. That's what makes him dangerous. Lesser men would stand, shout, grab, command. He goes still instead, eyes narrowing just enough to sharpen. In that stillness, I see the exact moment certainty without proof becomes recognition with witness. He knows this is not me. He doesn't understand how. He knows it anyway. Nathaniel studies him with my face for one heartbeat longer than necessary, as if savoring the fact of direct contact. Then he withdraws. Not all at once. Harder than before, but not violent. More like the tide tearing free of something it had hooked around. The room snaps back. Sound rushes in wrong. My chest locks. My stomach drops. My hand hits the edge of the table and sends one of the Georgia files onto the floor. Carver is out of his chair before I fully come back to myself. What the hell was that? Not shouted, demanded. I try to answer and realize for the first time since this began that I am confused. Not blank, not amnesic. Confused. Because he came in so fast and left so sharply that the residue of him stayed longer than the action itself. For a second, just a second, I feel two rooms at once. Carver's apartment around me, and something else layered faintly over it. Stale air, highway hum, the sour mechanical chill of an overworked motel air conditioner. Then it's gone. I put one hand to my temple and force my breath back into sequence. He wanted confirmation we were working together, I say. Carver doesn't look convinced that this is the first emergency on the list. What happened? He entered, I say, with a hint of frustration. You know what I mean, he says. I look up at him, and because I can see the exact shape of the fear he's trying not to show, I answer more plainly than I have with anyone else. For a minute, I say, I wasn't the only one in the room. The silence that follows is different from every silence we've had so far. No skepticism left in it, no professional distance, just the shared knowledge that a line has been crossed in front of both of us and can never be uncrossed. Carver bends, picks up the file from the floor, and sets it back on the table with too much care. He knows, he says. Yes. He knows we're working together. Yes. He looks at me again, not as witness or source this time, but as someone standing inside the same blast radius. And now, he says, he knows what we're looking at. I nod, then stop, because the residue flickers again. Not enough to move me. Enough to show. Motel. A curtain edge, brown floral bedspread, a yellowed lampshade. The sensation of distance from the interstate, but not much. Southbound traffic rhythm. Close enough to hear if the room goes quiet enough. I inhale sharply, and Carver sees it. What? I saw something. What? Not memory, I say. Residue. I close my eyes, trying to hold it before it slides away entirely. Motel room, off the highway. South of here, I think. Cheap. Anonymous. He left something behind when he abruptly exited. Carver says nothing for a beat, then immediately, "Can you do that again?" "I don't know," I reply. And that's the truth. It frightens me more than the possession did, because now the window exists, and Nathaniel has no idea.
Chapter 6. The Next Piece. Nathaniel. The interruption was useful. She found him. I left her enough breadcrumbs during my fake calls on the burners. This tells me she was present during control. Not ideal, but useful. Mara and Carver are moving faster than I would prefer, which means they needed reminding that speed favors me more than it favors them. Their meeting gave me what I wanted: confirmation of overlap, scope of archive, how far they have come in such a short time. More importantly, it let me test Mara under stress in Carver's presence. She's changing. The resistance is no longer passive, still not dangerous in any immediate sense, but present enough that I could feel her pressing back from inside the entry like a witness leaning against a one-way mirror trying to prove the glass remembers her weight. Interesting. Too interesting. That requires adjustment. I sit in the motel room with the fresh burner unopened beside the sink and review the new geometry. Carver is no longer merely being prepared. He is alert. Mara is no longer merely being used. She is becoming reactive in ways that might eventually harden into leverage. If I move directly now, I risk closing paths I may still need. So I return to first principles. Pressure is a network phenomenon. When two targets begin reinforcing one another, you don't strike the reinforcement. You stress the network around it until the support becomes porous, which means I need another subject. Not random. Never random. Someone close enough to matter to both of them, but asymmetrically. Someone whose destabilization will create panic, distraction, and unavoidable exposure. Someone who can be moved toward violence or revelation with equal usefulness depending on which route opens first. I open the notebook and turn to a clean page. At the top, I write two names: Carver, Mara Vale. Then beneath them, I begin listing proximities: professional contacts, familial contacts, regular habits, emotional vulnerabilities likely to produce irrational movement. Mara is still easier to map in some ways because discipline creates routine. Carver is easier in others because obsession compresses his world. Then I recall that Mara's father is within proximity, so I write down one word and underline it: Dad. The word sits there more prominently than the rest, begging for action. Former law enforcement, proximal, trusted by her in ways she does not fully advertise, close enough geographically to matter, emotionally central enough to destabilize her if pressure touches him, old enough to underestimate contemporary threat while still believing he can handle danger if it presents itself in a familiar form. I don't smile. This isn't pleasure, it's elegance. If the network around Mara is going to be used, it should begin where trust already exists. A father is not just a man. A father is strength and confidence for an only daughter, and stability fails spectacularly when the daughter realizes the foundation of family can be entered like any other room. I write his name beneath and circle it once. Selection has begun. Outside, a truck shifts gears on the service road and the sound passes under the window like distant weather. My mind, too, shifts gears. What approach will I take? I'm time-limited, and this adjustment of use from Mara to her father will have to be more thought out than a passing glance. If I calculate this just right, I will be able to catch them both unaware, and my plan will be flawless. But if Mara is able to create a hurdle in my next quest, it could turn ugly. That would be unfortunate. For her, not for me. I close the notebook and switch off the lamp. In the dark, plans clarify, and now I know exactly where the next pressure belongs.